Yeah. Big leagues.
All right, everybody, we are live. You are with Clarissa, Burt, and Ashley Rumschlag here in the limelight. These, as we all know, are some very challenging times, difficult for some, maybe a bit of a vacation, if you will, for others, because they get to stay home and not go out. And it's a good thing, I think, for people that that are at home so they can spend more time with their family. And then there are some people that that's not such a great thing for. And that's why I brought on Ashley. Ashley is the vice president of DomesticSheltors.org. You can go and take a look at the website as we're speaking. And she's been on the show before. She's a friend of the show. And I'm trying to do my best to get the word out about DomesticSheltors.org. There are over, at this point, 25, if not 2,800 close to shelters all over the United States and starting in Canada as well. These are shelters where the abused, domestic violence, abuse victims can go and seek refuge and shelter and help. And DomesticSheltors.org gives all of the information and there's all kinds of information there that you would need to know. Unfortunately, when we are at home, and I was reading this article yesterday, which is why I called Ashley right away, that you are at home. Not only you're staying away from the virus, but you're staying closer to your abuser. So with that having been said, Ashley, this is the perfect platform, I think, for people that either are being abused or know of people that are being abused, for us to reach out and help somebody. So can you tell me a little bit more about DomesticSheltors.org, and then we'll start talking about what they can do in these very challenging times.
Yes. So just a quick overview of DomesticSheltors.org. We offer a platform where people can essentially learn about domestic violence, recognize the signs, understand how to stay safe, and make a plan to leave, as well as what to do, as far as healing and kind of rebuilding your life after abuse. And then we also offer a searchable database of those more than 2,800 shelters, so you can find out which program, shelter, resources are available in your general area.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just putting down here, because I had forgotten to do this. It's important. I want the banner to be scrolling so that people can see it, so that they know what I'll do that in just a second. But so there it goes. DomesticSheltors.org, everyone, just in case you want to go there, check it out. What is it that makes it different for an abuser when, the tensions, I'm assuming, are higher? You're around somebody all day long. You really aren't getting a break. You can't go out. You can't, there's no respite. There's no break. What is the first thing that someone can do to quell the situation in the house?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really is. It's kind of a hard answer to come up with, just because it is so different for every scenario.
Right.
You want to try to, find space where you can. But it's really, you're going to have to, everyone kind of goes into their, defense mode, where they're kind of just doing what they have to do to survive. And so, looking at this situation, the way that it's unfolded, where people are being, not allowed to go to work, not able to kind of take on any other outside activities, and which would normally have given them, like you said, that break from the person who's controlling their life, and preventing them from, reaching out for help. And some of the things that abusers are doing, and what we're hearing from representatives at the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and really just directly from advocates and survivors themselves, is, abusers are manipulating the information that survivors are getting. So that's really important, which is why we're putting out articles. Everyone's kind of dispelling this myth that shelters are no longer there to help. They are, they're available 24/7 with hotlines that were already in place. And, making sure that survivors are getting the correct information is key here.
It is key. So the shelters are open, or is it a case per case situation? In other words, if there's someone who's in difficulty right now, they go to DomesticSheltors.org. They do the search for their zip code, and they can find the shelter that is closest to them. All the information is there. The website is there. A hotline phone number is there. And are the shelters open, I guess, is the question. Is there somewhere for you to go?
Yeah, so that's a really important distinction that you made, is that it's a case-by-case basis. We have not heard of a shelter yet that has closed, but the best option is to reach out to that shelter, visit their website. If you're unable to call and get the latest updates, they're updating on social media, using all of the different channels to get that message out there of any changes. For the most part, at this stage, and things we do change and things are different, from state to state, locality to locality. You're going to find that administrative staff has been sent home. Non-essential services and auxiliary programs like thrift stores are no longer being run. But things like hotlines and beds and shelters are available.
I think in our conversation this morning before the live, you had said there is even a shelter or some shelters that are saying, look, we're open. And even if they have the coronavirus,
right. And that was one specific person that we'd interviewed for the article we recently posted. And, it's comforting to hear, essentially, that, they will be taking necessary precautions and quarantines and sending them to local hospitals if necessary. But they wanted to make clear and felt it was important to say that even if you feel as though you have the coronavirus, that you are still, able to seek treatment, seek help for finding a safe place to be.
Right. As I was reading the article, it seems as though the abusers are using this almost. I read something about there's a gal that was working in a hospital. She works in medical. And so he was, saying, oh, you're trying to get me sick. And, you're bringing this home. And he was just kind of really being really strange about that. And so that was something that was really shocking to me. I can't even imagine how this gal must feel. Yeah, this really, and I read the articles and it takes me a second to wrap my head around how nasty people truly are to one another. They're also, abusers are hiding some of the necessary items, such as hand sanitizers and disinfectants. The abusive partners may share information about the pandemic to control or frighten survivors. That's happening, or to prevent them from seeking appropriate medical attention. They're keeping them away from their own families, saying, oh, you can't go visit your family, when, it probably would be just fine to do so. I don't know, but I'm assuming they're, threatening to withhold their insurance cards and canceling. I mean, there's all, the canceling their insurance policies. It doesn't necessarily mean that, an abuser is putting their hands on you. It could be this kind of mental anguish that is being bestowed upon you. Yeah.
Right. It all ties into, this single underlying element of domestic violence, which is control. They are controlling the narrative. They're controlling the supplies. They're controlling access to medical care. That's what, abuse is all about. And so any way that they can find to manipulate that, the person that they're trying to control, we're seeing some very creative examples that are coming up, and it's shocking, and it's hard to watch.
Right. There's another thing that I read that, we usually, as we had spoken about before, and as we can find perfectly on DomesticSheltors.org, to create a safety plan. And a part of that safety plan is starting to put some money away for the day when you're ready to leave. In these times, in these very difficult times, that might not be possible. What say you to that case scenario?
Well, I mean, in desperate times called for desperate measures. And at this point, people, kind of back to my original point, people are going to do what they need to do to survive. I think the best thing that anyone sitting at home can do right now is just make sure, spread the word that those emergency services are still available to people. But yeah, a lot of people are going to have to rethink their safety plan at this time, because they may have lost their job and need to use that money that they had put away for other things. But just, letting people know that if they're making adjustments, that, the services that they were relying on have not stopped in most cases.
I still think that when you're home pretty much 24/7 with an abuser, because this is, what I've been seeing, what I've been hearing, what I've been reading, there is still always hope, and there is still always a way out. Now, I know that a lot of people, and I'm going to say women, because we know that the numbers are staggering as far as women being abused as opposed to men, but this is for all. Yeah, that it is. I think there's a lot of shame, and I'm going to beg you, please get over the shame aspect of wanting to get up and leave, wanting to reach out, wanting to talk to friends, and wanting to tell family, because a lot of women are so good at keeping this quiet and never sharing this. And I think that if they were, if we could get them to share more, if we could reach out, prompt them to reach out more to the DomesticShelter.org platform and to the shelters, to their friends, to their families, they might find that, again, they are not alone. And I think that's the one message that we underline and stress a lot here, is that you are not alone. There's always someone willing to help.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And during these times of, kind of social isolation, there are places that you can go virtually to reach out to other survivors. We have a Facebook group that you can find by visiting our Facebook page. There's a link to many different forums and online chat rooms that are available, so that, as people kind of distance themselves and no longer have as many human contact points, those are great alternatives for people, now and always, really.
And just because of that, they could feel even more alone and even more isolated, right? Because,
Absolutely.
This is why, when I saw what was happening yesterday, and again, I know, Ashley, we are collaborating. I'm trying to get the word out as much as possible. I'm telling everybody I know about DomesticSheltors.org, and we will be doing many of these talks, of these reach outs, these videos, these lives, so that we are constantly, we're there. We're not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. DomesticSheltors.org isn't going anywhere. And that's, really, really, I think is, if you have to see it once, if you have to see it 100 times, but do what you need to do to move on, to get up, move on, and never look back, is what I say. Okay. Anything else that we want to stress or to underline before we say goodbye?
Well, one other point I wanted to make was just, so obviously we're focused here on the people who are currently experiencing abuse, but think about it from a standpoint of people who have survived domestic violence, have moved on and rebuilt their lives. This is also a very triggering time for people as they lose control over what, the day-to-day normalcy that they once had.
Right.
So kind of seeing how, their normal life is being controlled by outside forces, it can be a very triggering time for people. So if you know anyone that is, a survivor that may, need someone to reach out to, just give them a call and check in and make sure they're doing okay. I think that's one of the main things that people can do, is just check in on their friends and neighbors.
Yes, absolutely. It's really hard too to be sitting on the outside knowing that somebody is being abused and they're not making the moves, yet to help themselves. And it's really kind of a hard place to be in, but don't give up. Because, don't ever give up on someone because you think that they're never going to wake up and, smell the coffee. With your help, they will. And so I urge all of you to continue to do that. Remember, if it's not happening to you, it could be happening to someone you know. It could be someone at work. It could be a neighbor. We know that this happens in all kinds of demographics and all kinds of, social stratas, from the richest of the rich to the least fortunate. So again, DomesticSheltors.org. You've been watching it, the entire video, as it's been underneath in the ticker tape. And Ashley, anything else that you would like to add before we say goodbye this time? But it won't be for long, because we're going to be back. I have a feeling that this is a message that needs to be heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just encourage everyone to visit DomesticSheltors.org, check out our latest article on the epidemic, and then you'll see some links to resources that have been put together. There's a really, really great cohesive response from the domestic violence community and a lot of resources out there. So take advantage of them.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, DomesticSheltors.org. You heard it here. And we will be back. This isn't the first or the last time you'll be hearing from Ashley. All right, everybody, talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.